what's up? I'm Horizon Wake, and this is the vocal breakdown for my song With You. I've had a lot of questions about what my setup is like, so I thought I'd leave it all in one place for everyone to have access to. If you like this kind of thing, definitely hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to see this done for any of my other tracks or any of the other effects that you might hear in my songs, leave something in the comments, and if I have a second, I'll get right to it. Anyhow, let's get into it. The microphone that I'm using is the Rode NT1A. It's my go-to microphone, and 99.9% of the time I'm using that. And if I'm not using this, I'm using the AT4040. Both mics are affordable and give a really, really good professional sound. I'm running that into the Apollo Solo USB. That is my favorite interface. I love this thing. I just upgraded to it. I've only done the last 2 tracks on it. Everything before that has been done on the Scarlett Solo USB interface, which again is another amazing and portable interface. And if you like the sound of my other tracks, then you'll definitely like the sound of that thing too. The software I'm using is Logic Pro, and lastly, we'll get into the effects. So generally, I'll start off with nothing on my voice. I kind of like to sing things dry. It's kind of, I hear the worst of it and then it gets better from there. So I'll show you guys what my voice sounds like without any crazy effects on it.
Do you remember yesterday, last mid-December, felt the same?
Right, so it's kind of, boring sounding. There's not too much going on. So I'll add some compression, which will just kind of level things out, maybe bring up the volume a little bit.
Do you remember yesterday?
Not a huge difference. So where things really come into play here are with the pitch correction, which is going to pull things more on key for those of you who've never used it before. Finding the key kind of sucks because I don't know music theory very well and I'm kind of dumb. So I just do like a little run, pick the last note and guess, and 90% of the time I'm right, but there's that 10% where I get stumped and I'm looking for it for a while. The EQ, I usually just cut off the low end, and then this all varies and will vary for every different voice, but depending on where I want the vocal to be, sitting in the mix, I guess. De-esser is going to take care of the sibilance. I have another EQ to level things out. 2 compressors with opposite attack and release. So that'll, crush everything to kind of make it smooth over the whole waveform rather than, just the start or the decay of it. And then delay, which I have super low. Actually, it should not be at 0. Usually I'll have that around 2 or 3. Now, what all that sounds like before we get into adding in any reverb is this.
Do you remember yesterday, last mid-December, felt the same, not the...
So it sounds pretty good, right? You might notice that some of the time you weren't hearing the delay there. That's because I do have some automation on the delay. So you'll see here that I've gone in and taken all the weird ones out. So I just leave the good stuff in there. Pretty cool trick to spice up your mix a little bit. That little difference, with some things being delayed and some not being delayed, I find just makes things sound, awesome, more interesting. The reverb I use, this is my go-to. I love the UAD Pure Plate Reverb. I think it sounds super smooth. It's really good plate reverb. If you guys don't have this kind of stuff or you're working with just stock Logic effects, no worries. Just find a plate reverb in there and give it a go. Mess around with the settings until you think it sounds nice. That's what I do. And then I bus for a little bit more reverb there. So now with the reverb on there.
Do you remember yesterday, last mid-December, felt the same, not the cold weather, it's how you spoke my name.
So it sounds pretty good, but I want it to be, beefed up a little more, meshed with the beat. So typically what I'll do in this case, and what I've been doing lately for my past few releases, is adding a octave vocal, which I've called, double oct here. This is pretty cool. Basically what I do is I take this vocal and I actually just copy and paste it underneath most of the time. sometimes I'll sing it as well, depending on how I want the sound to be. But what I use is, here it is, harmony. So this is a great thing here. A ton of other plugins can do something similar, so just find the one that works best for you. But if you do have this stuff, great. What I usually do is I just add an octave below and then an octave above, just slightly lower in volume. And what that sounds like on its own is kind of dumb, but
You'll remember yesterday, last mid-December, felt the same.
right. But when you hear these two together, you'll hear that it just really beefs up the main vocal sound.
You'll remember yesterday, last mid-December, felt the same.
Cool. So then I'll move on to the background vocals. Now the background vocals here, generally I just like to cut out a lot of the low end in the EQ.
Ooh, ooh, hey, ooh.
Right. So I'll show you guys what the effects look like on those. Again, it's mainly just EQ and reverb that takes care of a lot of this stuff. I think they've got some delay on there too. But let's go into it. So you'll notice here on my EQ that I've really taken out a lot. I don't know what I didn't like about this frequency when I was EQing it, but that's how it is on the final. There must have been something that was just bugging me there. And then the reverb. I've got the reverb EQ'd, and I've actually decided to use the reverb in Nectar this time. I rarely do this, but I guess for this time I was just feeling it. And I think it sounds pretty dope for background vocal. Now, with that, I thought, it might need a little bit more background vocals, and actually use this for the intro as well. It's kind of like a more smooth version of this one. Same deal. I just used Nectar on this as well. And then I bust the reverb into the pure plate. So pitch correction, EQ, same as the other one. EQ to level out. Compressor, dimension. I should mention this too. For background vocals, a lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll throw in some chorus just to help it sit a little better as a background vocal. Just, I don't know, it just gives it a nice chorusy sound. I don't know how else to describe that. And then here's the delay. So I've got the delay turned up a little bit here, and you'll notice that as soon as I press play. Right, I thought that sounded pretty wicked. So that's all pretty much for the main vocals. I throw all that stuff together and it sounds pretty awesome. And then the final touch, I think, which makes it sound really, really good and keeps things really interesting all throughout the track, is my harmony track. So 90% of the time I will sing the harmonies, but sometimes I really just want that processed harmony kind of sound. So once again, you guessed it, I'll hop into Nectar 3, I'll scroll over here to harmony. Everything else back here, again, is all the same effects every single time, but just like, maybe slightly tweaked here and there, depending on the beat. Now with this harmony, I usually just do like a sixth below, third above, and then maybe I'll play with some octave stuff in there too, which in this case I did. And here's what these sound like on their own. Right, they're kind of trippy. Now, when those are behind the main vocal though, same deal as we got with the octave, and I'll actually just put them all together here.
So much more to life than just the pain of never knowing what direction we're going.
And I find it just helps it all to just mesh real nice. So let's give it a listen to what all those sound like together here over the beat.
The way it slipped your lips into my brain. So much more to life than just the pain of never knowing what direction we're going. It doesn't seem to matter with you, babe. Ooh,
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If it helped you guys out at all, let me know in the comments. And same as always, keep coming back and supporting the music. It means a lot to me, and it's the reason why I keep going.